Good morning, everybody. My name is Connor Flanagan, and I'm the Director of Education here at the Southampton History Museum. Today, we're joined by Adrienne Falzon, and we're going to get into talking about her new book very soon. But before we do that, I want to encourage everybody to go to southamptonhistory.org, go to our calendar page, and you can sign up for all of our other programs that we have going on that are just like this. I believe our next program is on the 9th, co-sponsored with the Rogers Memorial Library, called Falconry on Long Island. Then we have a couple other programs going on. A really interesting one that I'm excited about. On Saturday, March 13th, we have the tour of the North End Burying Ground with Southampton town historian Julie Green. So that one's gonna be really nice and informative. I'm gonna definitely be there myself trying to record it as best I can for everybody that can't join us in person. Hopefully we'll be able to post something online for everybody. And we have a few other programs going on that I think everybody should definitely check out. So I definitely want to get everybody, if you have any questions during today's talk, please feel free to submit them in the Q&A function or in the chat function. And we will definitely get to those and make sure to ask Adrienne any questions you guys might have about her book or anything else you might want to ask. Also, I'm posting right now in the chat a link for everybody who may be interested in purchasing today's book, Live Like Paul. You can find that at Adrienne's website, adriennefalzon.com. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Adrienne to talk a little bit about the book, and then I'll pop back in with some more questions, and then we'll go over to everybody else's questions. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Connor. It's so great being asked to join you guys at the Southampton History Museum. I have to remember that because I'm so used to the old title, Southampton Historical. And I'm getting used to it now. I have a long history with the museum, as you know, maybe 20 years of just enjoying all of your events and actually doing the Sunday walking tours. I would lead that every Sunday during the summer, and it was just amazing. And then I'll never forget the house tours when I would be the chairperson to get 70 docents, which was just absolutely, it's just so much fun. But anyway, thank you for asking me. At first I had said no, because I have no idea how to even start with a computer. And I actually talk about that in my book. And that's why my book was written in longhand. But I said no at first, and then I remembered my sweet director here, my girlfriend's daughter-in-law, who lives right here at the Cosby Estates, where we live in Rancho Santa Fe, California. And she's just a doll. And she said, I got this, so don't worry. She's right here. She's right here. And so anything goes awry, I have my helper, my sweet Quinn Wexel. And I know her mother-in-law is watching. So hi, Lynn. So I'm glad to have this opportunity. This is the first one to talk about the book. It's been very busy the last few months with sales. I'm busy almost every day sending out books because of Paul's very widespread community. And the more people that hear about it naturally, want the book. So and then with the pandemic, naturally there wasn't any live meetings or anything like that. So this is really the first time that I'm talking about it. I did do a little blurb sometime, I think it was September, when my daughter-in-law Erin was in town with my son, and I did a little talk for Polypalooza, which is a yearly celebration of Paul, usually around September, that his friends, amazing friends, put on every year. So I did do a little talk on that day, but this is really the first. And it gives me a lot of joy to talk about my son and the book, which is, his biography. But it's even more than that, because I have chapters on many subjects that are really very pertinent, especially today, what's going on. And Paul was all about kindness. He was all about doing for others, as anyone who would know him, meet him for 5 minutes. He was constantly looking for ways to make people happy. And that's really why he affected so many people his whole life, from when he was a little child, and I go through all of that in the book, in his biography. So I hope that your questions will bring more of what I want to say, and take it from there, Connor.
All right. So we'll start with the first. I have a couple questions that we prepared before this, and we'll get through these. And then afterwards, again, if anybody has any questions you think of while we're talking, please feel free to submit those, and I'll get to those right after I finish the ones I have here. So first, so your son passed away in November 2018. When did you decide to actually start writing this book?
Well, actually, Connor, that thought came to me almost at his funeral. It was quite an experience being there. It was, of course, we had no notice because it happened so quickly, and here we are in California. He passed away in Georgia, and thank God for my amazing husband, who and my son Frank, who put it all together very quickly. It was literally the day before Thanksgiving. So the timing was just insane. Even you would think about people even coming, but lo and behold, there were hundreds of people. People came with suitcases from the airport. One person came from Israel overnight to be there. And we, the family, the few of us that were there, we were just in awe at the response of what his friends did. It's even hard to even describe the love, and they set up like this. Even the funeral director said he had never seen anything like it in his life, especially the day before Thanksgiving, when most people just stay home and probably have their turkey in the oven. They were there for Paul the entire time, with all kinds of, they set up a movie screen with photos. I don't even know how they did it, because I was really kind of, in my own, shock, really. His friends did it all. We just took this all in. And the love that was shown for him was very, very moving. And I think that's probably when the thought was coming to me that, this wasn't over. There had to be more. There had to be a reason for this untimely death. There's someone who, was so good. And I didn't know it at the time, but that a book would come from that. But when I came home, and really it was a very difficult time, because really all I did was cry. I mean, that's why I have all these wrinkles today. Pretty much that's all I did was cry. And thank God for my husband and my amazing, amazing friends, amazing friends. They never left my side. And but when I was alone, I would get these sentences in my head that would be maybe the beginning of a chapter, or the beginning of, the first sentence in the first chapter. It was just constant. And I talk about that in my book, how it was like these thought balloons that would just follow me around. And I said, you know what, maybe I have to write a book. And really, I started pretty much maybe about a month or two after that, where I really started to gather up the materials. I started making notes, and then it was just nonstop from there.
So speaking of gathering all the materials that you used for this, there's a lot of photos that were used that are have extremely detailed stories and accounts in your son's biography section. So how was all of that possible?
Well, my publisher was kind of like in shock. So actually there was less, believe it or not. I think there's like 300, and I wanted every single one of them. But I did have to eliminate some because it had really gotten out of control, but it was very hard. So you asked me, how is that possible? Well, I have been kind of obsessed with taking notes from when the boys were little. I have 4 sons, and uh, from when they were born, I would have very intricate notes on every single thing that they did,
Huh.
up and right through high school. And I mean intricate notes for every part of their development. And I use like 4 sources. I really go into detail, in the book about this, which is
Wow.
probably that people would probably put me away. But it was what I did for the 4 of them. And as far as photos, I have over 100 photo albums sitting in my garage right now, which when we moved to California, I mean, these photos are like my life. I mean, that's all I ever did was take photos of the boys and everyone constantly my whole life. And they have come around with us every place we moved, and we've moved a lot. So when we moved to California, we heard that they have fires sometimes, and it could be, a little scary. I mean, fortunately, we've been fine, but we do have fires, miles away. And that was the first thing I said to my husband. I said, "Oh no, no, no! Take anything, but please, my albums. I can't have anything happen to my albums." So my amazing husband goes and orders this huge walk-in safe that is fireproof. They had to have a special truck and pitchfork to bring it because it's so heavy. And
Huh.
that's sitting in my garage with all my albums. So it was a matter of just, going through all of my resources and all my albums, and I had it all there. I just had to add the words.
Wow, that's really impressive. I mean, as somebody who works in a museum, we're all about collecting and
I
organizing
know,
stuff, and sounds like your
I
stuff's
know.
already done.
And it was all done. It was done. Yeah. And and it's funny because it's not really funny, and I think I might mention that in the book, that you wonder why you do things like, was I supposed to do that? Was I supposed to have all of this so that I could have this fabulous um, testimony for Paul? And the funny thing is, Paul was exactly like me. Exactly. I mean, I have all of his. He kept scrapbooks with every single article that ever came up with the football teams. And I mean, there are some things that would just blow you away what he kept. I mean, we knew about it at the time, but he would have spreadsheets at 10 years old with hours that he worked and how much he made per hour and how much, and it was always mathematical spreadsheets. I mean, he was really
Huh.
he took that to another level.
Wow.
Yeah. And I have photos of these spreadsheets, in the book. I couldn't not have them.
Yeah.
So, mm,
But so what was your writing routine? Did you was this something that you did like first thing in the morning, middle of the night? Was there sort of any kind of real routine to it?
well, once I started, and again, it might have been more like in Jan. He'd passed away towards the end of November. So probably then the holiday came and we went to Park City, Utah to see my oldest son and Aaron and the children, Olivia and Frank. So we were there. So then that took up that. That was really great that we did that trip. It was very healing for us. But let's see. So then so January, I think, is when I actually really got serious and I started to get things going, in a serious way. It was pretty much nonstop from that moment on. I would wake up in the morning and have the coffee, and I would get right to work and pretty much work throughout the day. That was, let's say, January, and then we leave here usually in June to go to Southampton for 4 months. And I was pretty much holed up the entire summer of 2000, that would be 2019. I rarely went out of the house, or I went to the beach. I did a lot of writing at the beach once I had my materials with me. But pretty much it was 12 hours a day. And I was obsessed because I couldn't stop. It was such an obsession that I had to get this done. And actually it was kind of strange. it was like I realized that this was um, very important that I get it down, because I knew I would be the only one. That's really what scared me. I said, because when you lose your son, you realize you never know what could happen one day to another. I mean, it's who knows who's guaranteed tomorrow. And that became like my fear, that something would happen to me and I wouldn't have this all done. And that's really what drove me. I said, I can't die, because nobody's going to be able to do this for me. They won't be able to go through all of this and get it right, because I knew him so well. So that really, so I would, and then the other thing is I would write longhand, because this computer here is like brand new. She laughs. It's brand new because I bought it to thinking I was going to use it for the book, but it didn't work out. I had even a hard time putting it on. So just packed it back up in the box and made believe I didn't have it. And I did everything longhand. Everything was longhand. So I had notebooks and notebooks longhand. And pretty much the first draft was pretty much what got published, except for some, sentence structure or, turning sentences around. The book was written from my heart from the get-go. It was pretty much just the way what you read is pretty much the first shot at it.
Wow.
And all in longhand. And it just went on and on and on. And then what I started to do that summer, as I was making a lot of progress, because I was working, sometimes till 10 o'clock at night, I was starting to hand it over to a typist, a gal in the area who, wanted to make some extra money. So I would hand over these handwritten pages to her, and she would start typing them, because it was getting out of control. I mean, the book is almost 400. I mean, it's 450 pages. So there's a lot of writing in this, and I knew there'd be a lot of typing. So I wanted to get at least going, and my goal was to get it done by October before we left. That was my goal, no matter what. Before we went back to California, the book had to be done and given to my publisher. So.
Yeah, that's all I could think about as you were saying you were writing it longhand, of just imagining somebody needing to type it all out.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. So when she went back to college, this gal, and I do give her credit in the book, then there was my granddaughter. Now, of course, my granddaughter travels all over the world because she's on the US ski team. So she's not local. So what I would do is I would take screenshots of my pages and send that off to her. And then she would type and then send the in a file to me of her type. So it really took a village getting this typed, to be honest with you, but it worked.
Huh.
It worked.
Well, I mean, in terms of writing this book, I mean, you're saying working 12 hours a day, not almost nonstop getting this done. Was there any part of the book that was difficult to write?
Oh, hands down, the biography. Even now, as I say it, I could really lose it. I would just be sobbing, because he had this amazing life, and he accomplished so much, and he was so funny, and the things that he did. I mean, I'd call my daughter-in-law and I'd be sobbing on the phone, and she would just remind me to be grateful, for having him for 43 years. And actually, that segued into my gratitude chapter, which really, really helped me. Matter of fact, she sent me a book, a gratitude book that I should fill out. And, she kept me, on task about, not getting, not going down and being so, depressed or sorry or sad and crying, but to turn it around. I mean, I knew that, but she helped me. She reminded me that that's really what needed to be done to get out of myself and and realize that in a lot of ways, I have a lot to be grateful for. And once you make that turn, it becomes a lot easier. But yeah, without a doubt, that biography was really, really tough.
So do you
Yeah.
think writing that biography and the book in general was really a good way for you to sort of heal during this process?
Oh, without a doubt. I don't know. I don't know if I would be where I am right now had I not written this book. Without a doubt, this book was the most amazing experience for me. I learned so much from it. Um, oh, it's for so many and on so many levels. I mean, first of all, it kept me so busy. So I didn't have time to really get into this, grief all the time. I mean, I did, believe it, I did, but this gave me something to really look forward to accomplish. And I knew it was for Paul. I knew his message had to be out there. So it was really an obsession that and it really, it, the, all the things that I learned in writing this book, because what would happen was I would have a thought and I would connect it with Paul, but then I wanted to know more about my thoughts and I wanted to dig deeper. So that had me get into research. And, and I've done an extensive amount of reading throughout my life, because I have been a reader, writer all my life. And I remembered a lot of the books that I had read that touched on these thoughts. So I went back to them and did an analysis. And I realized that, well, a lot of what happens to us has purpose, and it needs acceptance. First of all, you can't change it anyhow. So you need to go one way or the other. Either you're just going to fall apart or you're going to make it work for you. You're going to turn it around. You're going to make lemonade out of lemons, which is another book of mine. So everything is connected. And when I look back on it, it's like it was all meant to be. Paul's life was meant to be. Paul came here and he had an expiration date, without a doubt. I believe that with all my heart, that he came to do what he did, and he did, and he's gone. But now it's up to us to continue what he started, about being kind and and putting ourselves out there for others.
So speaking about like his legacy leave behind of kindness and things like that, um how is his life being how's his life work continuing now that he's gone, other than your book?
It's amazing. What has happened since he's passed is just amazing. Well, personally, when I started, I set up a foundation at Georgia Tech, where he went to college. It's called the Live Like Paul Foundation, and two students each year are awarded grants. And these students are from either the athletic division or they would be members of Paul's fraternity. And the requirements are that these are individuals who extend themselves to others and have a good character. So that's one way, but the other way is what his friends actually. I mean, I really am in amazement at what his friends have done. And he has so many wonderful friends. I mean, I could name so many, but there's Brian Van Rankin and Michael Pink and Ryan. And I mean, they have been really at the forefront for uh, creating, actually, I have it here. Well, we all wear them, Live Like Paul. I mean, it's like the Live Like Paul um, mantra. And they have created t-shirts and sweatshirts with Live Like Paul on them. And they wear them all over the world. And they take photos. People know when they buy the shirts, they take photos and then they send them out. It's really a cute thing to do. But mostly it's because when they wear the shirts, people always say, what is that? What's that about? Live Like Paul? Is that Paul the Apostle. And so it starts conversation. Well, there was this guy and he was so kind and he did so many things for so many people. And that's kind of what gets it going, about being kind and doing for others. So that's another way that that's another way that his legacy continues through the Live Like Paul found. And then of course there's Polypalooza, which they have every year. And it's a celebration of all Paul's friends. It's usually in the fall, like September, in Georgia. This year, his friends have planned a whole weekend of, it's called Polypalooza, and Paul was really into concerts. So they have, concerts and children, and he loved children. So they have all kinds of children's activities, and it's all in his memory and
Wow.
yeah. And everyone wears the shirts. And
what were some of the like the things that Paul did in his life that, like, is there an example or two you can think of him just being so kind or generous or things like that?
Paul, that
I'm sure
would,
you probably have 1,000.
that really could be a book in itself,
Yeah.
just what Paul did for people. I mean, I can remember as far back when he went to Georgia, and then of course when he got his place, his house. I mean, his home was open to anyone who was down and out. I mean, that was just like we used to tease him about it, and asking nothing in return, but they knew that they could go to Paul's house if they had nowhere else to go, and stay as long as they, until they got on their feet. And but he did a lot of just anonymous things for people, or not so anonymous. I mean, I remember there's so many stories that people came to me after to tell me. A matter of fact, even after the book was done, I got a call only about a month ago. This fellow from, and I don't know if he's on now. We were both hysterical crying. He called me about a month ago. He said that he had only found out about Paul's passing, recently. Because he kept trying to get in touch with Paul because he lived in another whole area. But evidently when he was a teenager, he had difficulties. He was living in Georgia, and Paul was at Georgia Tech at the time. And Paul was equipment manager for the Georgia Tech basketball team. Anyway, I don't know if Paul set it up or whatever, but troubled teenagers would go and work with a couple of people who were volunteers, Paul being one of them. And he said, "You don't understand what Paul did for me." I said, "No, I mean, I had never heard of him." And he spoke with this wonderful Southern drawl, from Georgia. Now I think he was in Alabama, but he said, he took me under his wing, and what he taught me, no one was able to teach me. And, he told me how I could really be something, no matter what I came from, I could be successful in life. And he said that he attributed his success totally to Paul. And he kept in touch with him. He went in his own business ultimately, he always kept in touch with Paul. He said Paul would take him out to dinner once in a while as he got older. And they always stayed in touch. He said at least maybe once or twice a year they would still connect. And he spoke with him right before he passed away. So as a result, he didn't talk to him for a very long time after. And that's when his search started. Like, why isn't he answering his phone? Because actually Paul's phone is still on. Couldn't understand it. Well, he did a lot of research. Had someone he had a detective, I think, try to find out. And he said he just fell to his knees when he heard that he had died.
Wow.
And he said that when he was calling him after that time he had spoken to him last and he couldn't get him, he says he wanted to tell him that he actually had named one of his products after Paul in his honor. And that's when I just lost it, But Oh, with the stories, just they just go on and on and on, like that, just
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Well, so I know you said a little bit in here before, and I know you as somebody who's written other books, specifically several children's books. Um,
Hmm.
there's one that I know that I believe we have in our gift shop. It's Not Fair. Um,
Yes.
and that was released, I believe, about a week or so before Paul passed away. Um, and is there a story or connection, right, that goes along with that
Well,
book?
that is really an interesting, and you talk about things, you talk about how things are meant to be.
Yeah.
That book was supposed to come out a whole year prior to when it actually came out. But of course, the timing, you have to remember, as I said before, there's a reason for everything, and everything it's all, and people might want to argue against this thought, but I really believe that everything is in its right timing. I decided to get a different illustrator for this book. It's Not Fair, because I loved my illustrator for the other three books, but I loved her. But this book needed a different look because of the content, and I was gearing it more to boys. So, although it's for everyone, but it's a baseball story. And so the message is that life is not fair. So get over it. That's exactly it. Life's not fair. And Paul was so excited about this book coming out finally. And he said to me, Mom, he's coming for Thanksgiving. And he said, Mom, I'm going to take 50 books back with me and bring in the list of the children to, for you to sign. I'm going to take an empty suitcase so I could take the 50 books back with me. I said, okay, good, Paul. He was coming actually the day he died. He was supposed to be here. And now I didn't have that list of the children. So at the funeral, I told these hundreds of people that if you have children, let me know and send me, and I gave them my information, send me all the information because I want to send your children. I know Paul wanted you to have this book for your children, so I will take care of that. So let me know, get in touch with me and give me your information, which they did, and I got those out. But the content of the book is really what's interesting. It's not fair. It wasn't fair that Paul died the way he did. And it's it just, at the time did not make sense. But it's what we do with things in life that aren't fair. And life many times is not fair. So what do we do with that? And I ask myself, what do we do with this? Do we just fall apart? And no, it's acceptance, and you move on, and you do good for others instead of just constantly, you know, going around saying, it's not fair. It's doesn't help anyone. You'll lose a lot of friends that way too.
Yeah. So speaking of this book, I know I mentioned at the top, but how, if anyone's listening today and they don't have the book, how could they go about getting a copy of Live Like Paul?
Well, what's happened, Amazon is getting a little weird. I've had it was just a few days ago, actually, two different people said they had a hard time getting it through Amazon. And I've spoken, and this is not the first time I heard it, and I spoke to my publisher about it, and he told me Amazon is getting strange in that they are trying to do without the book industry because it takes up so much room in the warehouses. So they're only wanting like one or two at the time. And these books have been flying off the shelf. So as a result, then they have to send more, and then that takes time. So there's like a constant waiting period. I mean, one woman told me it took her 3 weeks to get it from Amazon. So I have no problem. If anybody wants me, I will send it myself. So just, you could Venmo me or check or whatever. You could email me your information. I'll be more than happy. I'm retired, so I'm more than happy to send out any books that people want. It might be easier. I mean, you could try Amazon. I don't know what the situation is now. That was just a few days ago. And she told me, and then she knew two other people that wanted it. I said, I don't know what to tell you, but I'll be happy to
Hmm.
send them myself. So
Well, yeah, thankfully your email address is really simple. It's just your name, so it's adriennefalzon.com.
that's my website. Yeah.
Yeah, for your website. So I put that in the chat for everybody. If you haven't seen it,
Good.
you click that so you
Okay.
can hopefully find it that way.
Yeah.
Um, but
Right.
so to conclude the questions that I had going on right now, is there anything that you want people to walk away from reading the book knowing or feeling, or a certain way you want them to put the book down and be?
Well, there's so much here. I mean, I'm really hoping to um I'm really hoping to reach anyone that has whether any type of loss. It doesn't have to be the loss of a person. It could be any type of loss as far as um healing in that respect. Uh Also, it's just to be kind. And I think that's like one of the last sentences. I mean, just just be kind, because once you see how kindness of one person can affect thousands of people. If everyone did that, if everyone was kind, just one person. I mean, if everyone did that, I mean, we might just turn this whole country around, literally. And we need it now more than ever, for just everyone to just be kind.
Yeah, a
Uh,
little kindness definitely goes a long way.
it goes a very, very long way. I mean, people need to be respected, and they need to feel kindness around them. And I think that's why he did affect the people that he did. He was genuine. He genuinely loved people. He genuinely loved people, and he genuinely loved making them happy. And if we could all kind of like um, pick that up, very simple, could really change things around.
Hmm. Well, that was the end of the questions that I had. So if
Uh-huh.
anybody has any questions,
Okay.
please feel free. Now it's time to send them in. I have two here that I got so far, so I'll ask those. But as a
Uh-huh.
reminder for everyone else, you can type them either in the chat or in the Q&A function, and then I'll read them out for Adrienne to answer. So
Mm-hmm.
let's see,
Okay.
this first one is from somebody named Kelly. And they said that they are aware of a bit of maybe like a psychic connection that you have with Paul. And if you've had sort of any signs since he's passed away of him sort of watching over you, or being around still in some way. And if you feel comfortable sharing maybe one or two of those stories.
Wow. She's crying already. I'm about to. Um, for those non-believers, you could leave the room. But and this is one of my chapters actually in the book, The Afterlife. And of course, I wasn't aware of it until it happened. But Paul definitely reaches out to me by series of lights. And it happened, the first time it happened, I didn't realize what it was. I thought it was just a freak thing. It was this beautiful plant in the kitchen. And this is in the very beginning of my horrible, horrible grief, crying all night in the den. And then all of a sudden, this plant is lighting up, and I can't understand why, because it was off. And I went over to it and I checked the controls, and it's all off. And it was just crazy. It was just blinking. The whole plant was just going crazy. And then I connected it with my crying. And then the next night, and I kind of forgot about it. I thought it was just a freak thing. And honestly, this would happen every night, or when I was really having a rough day, even in the afternoon, this would happen. So, oh my goodness. So this is over 2 years of this going on. So when we had to leave, I gave the plan to the cleaning lady and all of that before we left, and took the lights off and put them in a drawer. And it was kind of sad because we had this thing going with the lights, but we couldn't continue. So we leave and we went to Southampton where I was writing. Then we came back and then I found the little lights in the drawer. And I said, I'm going to put them in this bowl. And I made this cute little arrangement with some stones, and the control was underneath off. And I said, I know you're going to put me away, but I talked to this bowl with the lights around it inside this fish bowl, which she just witnessed happen, which freaked her out. And I said to the bowl at Paul, someday when I'm really down, because this was months it hadn't happened because we weren't here. And I said, when I'm really, really down, please put these lights on again for me. So months went by and I was in pretty, decent shape, but the bowl never went on. But this one day, which was about November, December, January, it was about 4 months after I set this up and I spoke to Paul and put this on when I'm depressed. This lady had invited me to lunch and I didn't know her that well. She had been a new member at my garden club and on the board, and she wanted to discuss some things. And I didn't know her that well. So she wanted me to talk about Paul. She says, if it didn't upset me, she wanted to hear about him. So of course I cried the whole lunch and she kept apologizing. I said, no, this is good for me. I haven't done this in a long time and I want to talk about Paul. But I was really done in. And so I left her and I'm on my way, which is 5 minutes to the house. And I'm hysterical crying the whole time in the car now. I really got myself in a real bad state. And I walked in, and if that bowl wasn't blinking, yeah, it was going crazy. That was when I told him, when I really need it, please put that on. And today, I had a little talk with him and I said, today, Paul, I need you to know, this is my first book event. It'd be not now. The bowl hasn't been on. I said, today would be a good day to get that going. It's on. My husband's seen it and he said, it's hard to believe, but I think it's blinking. Yeah, it's blinking.
Well, I mean, I'll say, as somebody who runs all the ghost hunting programs at the museum, I'm definitely not a skeptical person on that realm.
Thank you, Connor. I appreciate that. I will give you a hug when I get there.
Yeah, it's definitely, if you have a spooky thing happen to you, you become a believer right away. Yes. But it's just, in my opinion, if you haven't had a weird thing happen, then I understand not believing it. But,
I know. Some people just can't do it. Actually, my husband was one of those people until now. I mean, he's witnessed it. He said, there's no reason why this is going on because it's on off. It's weird. It's like we have this telepath. I mean, when I talk to him like that, like this morning, today's the day, Paul, it'd be great if you put that bowl on. It has not been on in weeks and it's on.
It's interesting. So I had a question come in via email. I believe this person's name is Mookie, Mukki, or that's okay, or Lee. But let's see. It said that they've been friends with you for nearly 20 years, and they could tell you no one has more depth and fortitude than you in your capacity for seeing life, as it amazes me. And just sort of, where do you get that insight from?
Oh gosh. Where do I get the insight from, being strong?
I guess so, yeah.
Well, I don't know. Everyone's always told me that from like way back that I am very strong. I guess you kind of pick that up along the way if you've been through, and I've been through a lot of tough times. I had a divorce that was very, very difficult many, many years ago. Very difficult. And but I knew that I would get through. As a matter of fact, Paul would always tell me, Mom, you're strong. You're going to get through this. Everything's going to be great. And I really knew that. And my faith, I really have to say it's probably my faith also. I was always very spiritual, not necessarily religious, although I used to be very religious. But no longer religious after what happened with the priests in the Catholic Church. I was extremely religious, but now I'm more very spiritual. And I've always had a very strong connection in my prayer life. I pray all the time. So I guess I would have to attribute my strength, if that's what they're asking, to my belief in a higher power that really wants the best for me, as long as I, you know, have faith in that. I really believe that if you ask for help, ask for strength. Actually, one of my first children's book is called "What Is an Angel," and really, everyone could get the strength as long as they ask for it, and that's what your angels are there for. They're there for everyone. You just have to ask for, and I've always done that. I've always asked for help.
And then the last question that I have here was sent in by Lynn, and she's asking, how did Manny support you through this?
Oh God. Oh, Saint Manny. I
And for those of us who don't know, who is Manny?
Manny's my husband. Manny, I met Manny 2 years, and the whole story and how I met Manny is in the book also. But I met Manny 2 years after my horrific divorce, and God sent him to me. He is definitely an angel on earth. He is just, his life is really dedicated to my happiness. Why, I don't know, but really, he's an amazing, amazing human being. But not only to me, he's just good to everyone. He's another Paul. He's another Paul. He's just good to everyone, and he makes my life so easy. I don't know why. I'm not that easy to get along with. So I'm a very strong Italian, and but somehow he looks beyond that. God bless him. I have a lot of funny stories in the book. One of them is the chapter on forgiveness. So you don't want to get on the bad side of an Italian. So there's a
I
whole
live with
story.
one, so I know.
But all in all, we're pretty good. Oh,
All right. Well, I think that's the last question that we had.
okay.
This
Oh,
this
Connor.
this was a great talk. A really special insight into the life of your son, and I think everybody here, if they don't already have the book, are probably going to seek out a way to get the book soon. And I would definitely
I'm
encourage
happy to
everybody to reach
send
out
it.
to you.
I'm happy to send it. They could even email me if they want, if they don't. And it's my email address is alfsangel@aol.com. That's ALFSANGEL@aol.com.
And if
So
anybody has any issues contacting Adrienne, you can contact me, and I'll put you in touch. I think everybody should have my contact info from the RSVPing to the program.
thank
Um,
you. Thank you,
so
Connor.
yeah,
It's
without
so
any,
good to see you. I'll see you in what is this, March, April, May, June? Well, hopefully, God willing, we'll be there. And I put God willing before everything now, because you never know.
just
So
in
I said,
case.
God willing, I'll be there in June. And God willing, I'll be doing those walking tours on
Yep.
Sunday.
And I'll be there for
And
the walking tours, as many as I can as well, so I can hopefully get some recordings for
oh,
any of you who can't be
fabulous.
there in person.
And let me just put this plug in for the Southampton History Museum. It is, if you're anywhere near, or if you're there now, or if ever you visit, that you must go to the museum. It is just a fabulous, fabulous place. And if you're not there, even in person, they have a lot, as Connor was saying, online now, especially with the pandemic. So their programs, and they have speakers that are just incredible. So I highly recommend people to get to know the museum and all that it has to offer.
Well, thank you for that great plug, Adrienne. Um, yeah,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Well, it's been great having everybody here today, and I guess we'll see you all hopefully next time. Have a good day,
Wonderful.
everybody.
Thank you. You too, everyone. Thank you, Connor. See you soon. Bye-bye.